Right, Rugby World Cup Dream Team. I've been working on this for a little bit. Um, Not helped by the fact that the Rugby World Cup's website is not the best for stats. I've had to extract them all from every match. And yeah, kind of with the help of my wife. So thanks to her for putting it into I put it in Excel and she did her wizardry with it so I could actually get it in a format which was presentable. But the team is not just about stats. I'm not sure if you guys have seen Opta, the stats company. They did a dream team for the Rugby World Cup and there were no Springboks in it. So this team hopefully is somewhere between the Opta team, which is solely based on stats, and basically the Springboks, because if you're thinking about the dream team, it's basically the team that won the Rugby World Cup, isn't it? So there are a fair few Springboks here. Most of these players, I will admit, are players who made it through to the latter stages of the competition. It's hard with some of the early games to really take too much from the stats because there are a fair few mismatches at that level, and some guys, like if you were looking at one player off one game, Malia from Argentina, he had more in one game for Argentina's final game than virtually everybody else had in all their games. He had 157 run meters, 6 clean breaks, 10 defenders beaten, all in one game. Like the best game of the World Cup. He's the top. If you go by averages, he's the top guy for half the stats there are because he only played one game against a lower ranked team. But anyway, this is just my team. As always, there's no right or wrong team. It's just my one. It'll definitely be different from yours. So you guys, as always, leave me your thoughts in the comments below. I will start with the front row, and it's very much a World Cup final here. It's Tendai Mtawera, loose head, Malcolm Marx, hooker, and Kyle Sinclair at tight head. So the Beast, he played an average of 43 minutes, so he was on the slightly higher side than half, but we know Rassi managed those props pretty well to make sure they weren't overtired. He only averaged 2.6 run meters a game, which is pretty low for him. But the guy is getting on, so we won't hold that against him. I think, though, you have to look at some key things for him as his work in the scrum, especially the final. And it's easy to just look at that one game in the final and pick the team based on that. But I'm trying to look at the overall comp. I think overall his scrummaging was still top class. He managed 3 turnovers across the comp, so one every other game, which is pretty good. I don't remember the Beast being particularly well known for his work at the breakdown, at least in terms of turnovers. Cleaning up maybe, but turnovers. He averaged 6.3 tackles a game, which for a prop is pretty good. But if I was to leave you with one key stat for that guy and his commitment to the team, over the whole World Cup, he missed 1 tackle. 1 tackle. So, yeah, top effort from the Beast. Malcolm Marx, it was a pretty tough one, a hooker, because I compared his stats to some of the other quite good hookers. And his averages are sometimes still higher, but if you look at his average minutes played, he played 41 minutes a game on average. He's only had 20 or 30 minutes less than some of the other guys to get the same kind of numbers. Like some of the hookers were playing 60, 70 minutes and have similar or maybe slightly better or slightly worse numbers than Malcolm Marx. So I've gone with Marx. Mbonambi could have been there as well. Averaged 11 run meters a game, which for a guy in his position is not bad. Think about the Beast had 2.6. Beat a defender every other game. Averaged 4.5 tackles a game. He only missed 2 tackles throughout the World Cup. So Beast was 1, Marx was 2. Interestingly, he only made one turnover during the whole World Cup, which is unusual because he is known kind of for being a threat at the breakdown. But also, I think you have to give him credit, apart from his try. Also have to give him credit for the fact that him and Mbonambi together, that the South African line-out was operating almost perfectly. They only dropped one line-out the whole game, the whole comp. And all the locks get credit for it, but the ball's got to be thrown in by somebody. So Marx often gets criticised for his line-out throwing, but this World Cup absolutely came good. Kyle Sinclair, skills level for that guy is phenomenal for a guy in this position. Averaged 45 minutes per game, but I would imagine that would have been dragged down a lot by the final where he only played a couple of minutes, and it was very disappointing that he didn't play longer, but I mean, you get a head injury, what are you going to do? 7.1 run meters a game, again, pretty nice for a prop. 3.6 passes a game is more than most props. An offload every other game is more than most props. He had 2 clean breaks over the whole comp, averaged 5.1 tackles a game, scored a try. The English set piece was pretty darn good throughout the whole comp, so pretty happy with him there. The second row I have gone with, and I will go to a bench at the end, I've gone with Itoje and Diacha. So again, it's that World Cup final feel. Itoje played an average of 80 minutes, so when he was playing the whole lot. 10.8 run meters a game for a lock is very good. Beat a defender every other game. Averaged 14.2 tackles a game, which is very high. He did miss 1.2 tackles, but the English defensive structure often means they are missing tackles. And some of the South African guys were actually similar, but I'll get to some of them a bit later. He was the top turnover man for the World Cup by a mile. 11 turnovers in the comp, and the next best was 6. So that guy was top man. Also, so that's 2.2 turnovers a game average. It's phenomenal. And also managed 2 line-out steals throughout the whole comp. So his work at the line-out was just generally very, very good. Diacha from the Springboks. I kind of had to put a Springbok there. You got the Springbok hooker for that line-out partially, but also you need at least one of the Springbok locks. It could have been any of them, but I've gone with Diacha for a lot of his ball running stats are quite good. He only averaged 56 minutes, so again, Rassie managing his forwards, but 13.4 run meters, again, for a lock is exceptional. Beat a defender and a half, so every game, so 1.4 defenders beaten per game, which is again very good. You look at Itoje was 0.4, so for Diacha that's really good. 10.2 tackles a game, very good. Missed 2 tackles in the whole comp, just like Marks, so defensively very sound. Also 2 line-out steals and averaged 4.4 line-out wins per game. So he was a very, very busy customer during the time that he was on. I mean, you can imagine if he was playing 80 minutes, how big would his stats go? His average run meters would be closer to 20. Defenders beaten might be like 2. Tackles would probably be 14, 15, all that kind of stuff. So that's the type 5. The back row, I've gone with Pieter-Steph du Toit. Blindside, Dwayne Vermeulen, number 8, and I've gone for Underhill on the open side. So Pieter-Steph du Toit, World Player of the Year, kind of what choice did I have? He's pretty much the first name off the team sheet. The guy's been phenomenal all year, not just this year, but last year as well. He's been an exceptional player, so World Player of the Year, you can't not pick him, but also he was just excellent at the World Cup. Averaged 66 minutes, 8.6 run meters per game. One of the higher ones, but not necessarily the highest among loose forwards. In fact, the other 2 guys I've picked had higher than him. Beat a defender almost every game. Had 2 clean breaks in this competition, and he is decently up to speed when he gets there. 10.1 tackles per game. But I think what the stats probably don't do him justice is that defensive pressure he puts on. He is basically where he's got just such a work rate. Even if he's not making the tackle, he is putting pressure on the guys just with the ball. If he doesn't get them, he makes them rush or something like that. So also managed the line-out steal, also managed 2 turnovers, also managed the try. The guy did a bit of everything. I think he had a couple of line-out wins as well. Vermeulen at number 8, averaged 74 minutes, which is not bad for a guy getting at that stage of his career. Averaged 28 run meters, but again, he's often the kickoff receipt guy, but still, that's a lot of run meters compared to Pieter-Steph's 8.6. 6 passes in the whole comp. 6 passes. That guy likes to put his head down when he gets the ball, huh? Beat 1 defender per game, which is very good. 3 line-out wins. Also, 4 turnovers throughout the comp is also almost 1 per game. So that guy, again, ball running, work at the breakdown, kick receipts, all that kind of stuff. Just everywhere. Quite a mountain of a man. And Underhill, he averaged 66 minutes per game, averaged 16 run meters, which is between Pieter-Steph and Vermeulen. 2 clean breaks he had in the comp, beat a defender every other game, kind of similar to Pieter-Steph, but not quite as high. 13.8 tackles per game is pretty high, and give him a fair bit of credit there. 4 turnovers across the comp, so again, almost similar to the other guys with almost 1 per game. He kind of had similar stats to Curry when I put them side by side. Underhill's defensive stats were a bit higher. Curry's kind of ball and hand stats were a bit higher. But there was really very little between them. Underhill had 7 on his back, so I've gone for an open side. And Underhill could have been Curry equally well. Number 9, I've gone with Faf de Klerk. Averaged 72 minutes a game for a guy who's doing a whole lot of running. I'd like to see the GPS tracker to see how many meters he clocks up every game. It's a lot. 72 minutes in that position, not easy. 15.2 run meters a game, pretty decent average for a number 9. 3 clean breaks he managed, 3 defenders beaten he managed. That's across the whole comp. Averaged 13.4 kicks per game, which was the highest average among any of the World Cup players. But if you've seen Squidge Rugby's analysis of the way he plays, it's a really fitting and very good explanation of the way he's doing it. Quite illuminating for me as well to see just exactly why he's doing what he's doing. So those kicks for good purpose. Average 7 tackles a game, 3.4 missed tackles, but I'm not going to look at that as a negative because, I mean, the guy does shoot out of the line to disrupt play a lot. So even if he doesn't make the tackle, he's disrupting. So that negative stat I won't count too high. And also managed 2 turnovers and a try across the comp. So Faf was in pretty good form. I've gone, man, this is all Springboks in English so far, isn't it? Andre Pollard, number 10. Averaged 70 minutes per game. Averaged 11 passes per game. 3 clean breaks across the comp means 1 every other game. He does like to take the ball to the line, that guy. Averaged 7 kicks from hand per game, so it's a tactic of the Springboks to put the team on the back foot to play on the right half of the field. 4.5 tackles per game. He was the top point scorer across the competition. He averaged 11.5 points per game. Controlled the final pretty darn well, apparently with a facial injury, which we didn't find out until afterwards. But that's Pollard, number 10. It's another South African. I was umming and ahhing about the midfield combo for a long time. I have gone with Damien Delende at inside centre. He averaged 70 minutes per game. 4 offloads across the comp, which is 1 every other game, and he often gets criticised for not passing, so that was his offload stats. He did pass 32 times in the competition, which was 4.5 times per game, but he was clearly, with the amount of runs he did, under instructions to be that tank that busted the ball up. So still impressive that he passed as much as he did. Averaged 33 run meters, scored 2 tries, had 4 clean breaks, had 17 defenders beaten, which is 2.4 per game. He even kicked 6 times, which is almost once a game. He made 50 tackles, which was 7 a game, and 6 turnovers. 6 turnovers. That was kind of what sealed the deal for me to put him in there at inside centre. So again, that's almost 1 per game. That's similar rate to Dwayne Vermeulen and Underhill. So yeah, Dale Indy at 12. Outside centre, I've gone with Anton Leonard-Brown. So here's my first All Black. You might say he should be at 12, but I looked at a bunch of guys for 13. ALB did play 13 for the All Blacks against South Africa, so that's a pretty darn big game. So I've put ALB at 13. I feel like I'm not cheating by doing that. He averaged 69 minutes, averaged 57 run meters, 6.4 passes, 9 clean breaks across the comp, which is almost 2 a game, 28 defenders beaten, which is 5.6 per game, 42 tackles, which is 8.4 per game. So that guy, although against England the All Blacks didn't look all that good, I feel like ALB still really put his hand up for the most part in that competition. I did have a look at Goodhue as well, but I think Goodhue only played 4 games, and 2 of them were like the Namibia, 1 was Canada, and then Ireland. So 3 games that the All Blacks kind of won pretty easily, and he didn't play against South Africa, and he played in the loss to England, so it was kind of hard. Although Goodhue did have some good numbers as well. I looked at Lukanyo he had some really good numbers in some areas as well. You're going to say Tuilangi, he had some good numbers in some areas as well. But overall, looking at the stats, I'm going with those 2 guys. So, yep. Outside backs, I've gone with Makazole Mapimpi on the left wing, Bowden Barrett fullback, and Josh Adams on the right wing. I know what you're thinking. there's a name missing there. Well, there's multiple guys, but I'll get to them in a bit. So Mapimpi, 6 tries, averaged 78 minutes, so almost 80-minute man, 65 run meters per game, 12 clean breaks, which is averaging 2 a game, 18 defenders beaten, which is 3 a game, 5.5 tackles, and he was missing less than 1 per game, and given that he is tasked with, again, shooting up and disrupting, that is an impressive number. He also managed 4 turnovers, so I was on the Colby and Nkosi bandwagon all day long, but in my dream team, I have gone with Mapimpi, so there we go. Credit where it's due. Bowden Barrett, he averaged 80 minutes when he played, so like Itoje, when he played, he certainly played. Averaged 1.4 offloads per game, 17 passes, 6.8 kicks, so he was a busy guy back there at fullback. 92 run meters, that is hectic, but again, fullback, you do get a bit more space to run the ball back. 2.4 clean breaks, 4.8 defenders beaten. His offensive stats are pretty good. He scored 3 tries. His defensive stats are pretty average, but I'm still sticking him in there based on what he did with the ball. And a lot of the outside backs tend to have poorer defensive stats, to be fair. Right wing, Josh Adams, top try scorer of the tournament with 7 tries. He was the top clean break getter with 18 clean breaks. That's 2.5 per game. He had 16 defenders beaten, which is 2.2 a game. 55 run meters was his average. 3.4 tackles. So yeah, he was responsible for like half of Wales's clean breaks, basically. So a proper stroke weapon. So yeah, that's the 15. The bench, I've got Shota Horia at hooker. His all-round stats were very good. Honourable mention to like Jamie George from England and various other guys as well. But I've gone with Horia there. Horia is one of those guys who played a lot of minutes as well, but did get very good numbers. Another prop, I've gone with Mako Vunipola. Again, I looked at his stats across the board. Generally very good. He only played 4 games, but still at the harder end of the tournament rather than the easier one. I've got an Irishman in there in Tug Furlong. Kind of back to his best in terms of the work with his ball in hand. Was very good. So must have been eating some spuds because he looked really fired up. I think his defenders beaten numbers were really good for a prop, and his scrummaging is always top class. Alan Wynne-Jones is my backup lock. That guy is just a tackling machine, and the stats bore that out as well. His line-out work was also very good. The other loose forward I've gone with is Himeno from Japan. His stats were probably the best of any loose forward. If you're picking purely on stats, you probably go Himeno. And I think the Opta team went with Himeno. But I think sometimes you have to kind of weight it with the teams that you play. So, I mean, they did play Ireland, they played Scotland. But none of the teams from Pool A end up making the semi-finals, so that might tell you something. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but yeah. Reserve scrum half, gone with Gareth Davis. The run meters, the defenders beaten, just phenomenal and kind of what you expect from him too. Fly half, I've gone, reserve fly half, I've gone with Richie Mwonga. Again, I think across the board he probably has stats that look better than Pollard on paper in terms of his defenders beaten, in terms of his run meters and whatnot, but his points per game were also pretty decent, just below Pollard's, but I think Pollard's control can't be kind of underestimated. And my final replacement I've gone with Semi Radradra. Again, on pure stats, you probably pick him. Like 100 run meters a game. Try assists galore. The guy was everywhere. Played all the games for Fiji, but they didn't make the knockout stages, so it is kind of hard to justify putting him in the starting lineup. But the guy is just a beast, so I've already got one beast in the starting lineup, can't have two. But yeah, that's the side. If I was going to have a coach for the side, it has to be Rassi. Even the guy was just the mastermind behind it all. A few other guys I feel like I should mention. There are definitely more, but like I said, Jamie George, Stephen Kitsoff, Juan Figalo for the Pumas. He's that guy who had really ordinary stats, but he propped that scrum up really well for the Pumas, which has been an area of weakness for them in recent times. Locks, Petty, also from Argentina, Etzebeth, Sneyman. The list goes on of the good locks in the competition. Loose forwards, Polledri, I think, for Italy. Again, it's hard though. His stats were amazing, but Italy only kind of had that one tough game, and the All Blacks one was cancelled. So yeah, it's tough to judge. Wainwright for Wales, Curry for England, Savia for New Zealand. There's more. The list goes on. Aaron Smith was another good guy for number 9, another good option. There were plenty of others. Also, I should have mentioned kind of Pocock and Hooper. I think both averaged a turnover a game, which is a tournament where the fetchers didn't seem to get that dominant, but those guys were certainly putting in a good shift. Farrell and Tuilangi, like I mentioned, they could easily be in the team as well. Cheslin Colby, I cannot believe I left him out, but it was honestly like Adams is your clean breaks guy. Mapimpi is kind of a bit of everything in terms of clean breaks and defenders beaten, and then Colby was your defenders beaten guy. And I guess with Adams scoring all those tries, that was probably part of it as well. But I mean, with Colby, that tackle on Vunipola in the final, phenomenal. He's probably my favourite player of this World Cup, Cheslin Colby. So I tried to keep my own favouritism out of the team. But yeah, Colby could walk in. Matsushima as well for Japan had a top tournament. Fukuoka was good. But yeah, that's the team. Like I said, not perfect, but it's mine. You guys let me know your thoughts as always. I've seen there's a fair few dream teams out there. Good Lord, 21 minutes. I better wrap this up. But again, thank you to Jordan for editing this video. He's a top bloke and always makes things look that just one touch better. And also to my wife. I spent like an hour extracting all the data from the Rugby World Cup website and dumping it into Excel, just the raw data, and she really works some magic with it to actually make it usable in terms of a form of analysis. So yeah, sorry it's a late vid, guys. It took a bit of getting together, but yeah, got there at the end. Cheers guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.